Invite Suja Chandran from our team just to come and read us a poem.
The poem's called The Beauty of Death by Khalil Gibran. Part 2, The Ascending. I have passed a mountain peak, and my soul is soaring in the firmament of complete and unbound freedom. I'm far, far away, my companions, and the clouds are hiding the hills from my eyes. The valleys are becoming flooded with an ocean of silence, and the hands of oblivion are engulfing the roads and the houses. The prairies and fields are disappearing behind a white spectre that looks like the spring cloud, yellow as the candlelight and red as the twilight. The songs of the waves and the hymns of the streams are scattered, and the voices of throngs reduced to silence. And I can hear naught but the music of eternity, in exact harmony with the Spirit's desires. I'm cloaked in full whiteness. I'm in comfort. I'm in peace.
Going to invite our final speaker for the day, Sister Jayanti, to come up onto the stage. Sister Jayanti is the European Director of the Brahma Kumaris.
Thank you, Sarah. Firstly, just an appreciation of the talks that I heard this morning, and I didn't attend any of the workshops, but from the very healthy buzz that was going on as I entered the room, I'm sure that they were very rich and very interactive. So I'm really pleased that so many of you have decided to renounce Wimbledon and the sunshine outside. Nowadays we have to look at the calendar. This month is cricket, this month is football, this month is tennis, and so where do we fit in things? So I think it was during one of the short breaks, just here by the door. I was leaving the room, but somebody who's been a meditator now for some years said to me, "But I die every time I meditate. So what's the big deal?" I said, it's true that the change of consciousness from material consciousness to there's a lot of echo. Is this okay? Better? Yeah, okay. So the change from material consciousness and the identity of the limited, narrow physical self to spiritual consciousness, that change of awareness, that detachment from the physical consciousness is actually what's been described as a living death and rebirth. And rebirth not coming back into your old situation, but rebirth coming back more like from an NDE experience. Right? Okay. So how do we do that? And why should we bother to do that? I love the word curiosity that came up this morning, because I think a lot of our fear comes because we don't know, and we want to have absolute hardcore facts. And until 20, 25 years ago, there was nobody around to give us those facts. We had spiritual people telling us that there's eternity, and we had the materialists and scientists telling us, well, there's this life and who knows beyond, nothing. And so we didn't have any other factual information to work on. But over the last 25, 30 years maybe, there have been a lot of books on the NDE. And my understanding of that whole experience is there are different phases. And firstly, that there's a consciousness that's able to be outside the body, above the skin, and look down and see what's going on, whether it's an accident or whether it's in the operating theatre. Usually it's these two situations that I read about. And so consciousness to me then is not just an epiphenomenon of the brain, something that's happening in the body, but consciousness seems to have an existence which is separate from the body. And so in these cases, the pattern seems to be they're up above and they can hear, they can see their own body, they can hear the conversations that are happening around that body, whichever the situation may be. And beyond that, there's another experience. It seems that they're able to see the past story of their life as a film. And maybe it's very quick, maybe it takes long, but it's like the whole film of their life flashes before their eyes. Regrets, realizations, whatever it is, joy, but that film. And then there seems to be a passage when they're going through a dark tunnel, and at the end of the tunnel they come into light, and it's not electricity, but it's a different type of light. And within that light there seems to be an epicenter of light that's pulling them with its magnetism, and the pull is one of great love, non-judgmental, unconditional, inclusive, very powerful, beautiful love. And they're very happy, they're ecstatic, like we saw in some of the reports earlier. And then something pulls them back. And they come back, and sometimes they complain, "Why did you call me back?" But sometimes they come back with a sense of mission, a sense of purpose, that they've been on a journey that they need to let others know about. And there's a very dramatic change that happens in their life after this experience. They don't go back to their old habits and putting just the limited self first. Now they have a higher consciousness, a bigger awareness of many others and wanting to serve many others. And so all these changes happen. And this seems to be the pattern that fits within either any one of the religious traditions or no tradition. So whether one's been a Buddhist or a Jew or a Muslim or a Hindu or Christian, doesn't seem to matter. These phases seem to be similar, lots of differences also, but a sort of similar pattern. So why would we say that that's a little bit similar to meditation? Well, first thing, meditation teaches me that I, the inner being, the being that is conscious, I actually have a separate identity to my brain. You see, even my language, I'm using this word, my brain, and my physiology, the whole of the physical system. Everything here is separate to the inner being. I point here because in silence and meditation, this is where we feel the source of consciousness to exist. And we can be in that awareness of this inner consciousness even as we do other things. It doesn't have to be just when I'm in meditation sitting down, but when I look at you, when I speak to you, when I'm listening to you, I can still be in that awareness and that consciousness of the inner being rather than my physical identity. And the more I'm able to connect soul, I'll use the word soul rather than inner consciousness, it's shorter, sweeter. So in this awareness of soul, I'm very aware that this is my body. Again, this word my comes in. So the being that I am is separate from what I'm saying is mine, my body. So in this awareness, I'm totally aware that I'm responsible to care for this. I'm responsible to use it in the best possible way. I'm responsible for whatever it is I choose to do through this. I'm responsible for the feelings and emotions I exhibit and share with anyone through this also. So it's a working relationship, an ongoing relationship that's continuous, even in our sleep. The identification is with this. And in my own sleep, I don't know that I'm soul conscious. I can be soul conscious when I'm awake. But when I'm asleep, well, I'm sleeping. But what I see in my sleep, when I see me, I'm seeing this form. So that's how deeply we identify with this. And then in meditation, I'm very consciously, firstly, focusing here so that I can be aware of this inner being. Then I'm allowing my thoughts to detach from this so that I can start exploring what's within this inner being. When I'm caught up with this, then it's all the relationships here, all the activity here, the possessions I have here, the responsibilities here, and that's my world. A very physical world, a world that's here in this physical dimension, that's it. But I know that I can explore other dimensions. I know that my thoughts can go beyond this. I know that I can transcend time. Yesterday, 20 years ago, 50 years ago, possible. I can transcend distance. I can go one direction to the west and another direction to the east within a moment. So with the power of my thoughts, I can transcend just the ordinary existence and physical relevance, and I can start exploring the spiritual dimension. And I explore what's going on within my own inner world. But also I can explore things beyond the physical dimension. And we can come back to that in just a moment. Some years ago, we were in a meeting, and Dadi Janki, who you've heard about a few times now already, and some of you I know have met her. So Dadi Janki just used this expression within the meeting. I know how to live and I know how to die. And a person picked up on this and said, Dadi, that's a great title for a book. And so it took a few years, but a couple of years ago this book was actually published. And no, it's not here. It will be in our bookstore downstairs, I'm sure. But in that book, there are like two sections within the book. One section is a science writer writing about his own experience of some of the things that Dadi's talking about. And Dadi's talking about her own experience of life and death and beyond. And Dadi's connecting very much the whole subject of what is it that I'm doing in my life now, and how is it connected with my preparation for my final moments. And many, many years ago, she was told, consider, by a very powerful yogi, consider every moment to be your last moment and prepare for that. And so we never ever heard her postpone anything. She stayed 40 years in England, in London, traveling a lot, but based here. And we would say to her, Daddy, can we do this next week? Rather than do it now, can we do it next week? She'd say, who's seen what tomorrow will bring? Do it now. And many of you know this mantra of hers. Whatever is important, don't postpone it, do it now. And not even later on today. You know, she'd give Maureen and myself an instruction, and half an hour later she'd say, is it done? Daddy, we were with you. We didn't get a chance to do anything else in between. But her mind doesn't accept excuses. Till today, she doesn't accept excuses. 102 and she's still traveling. And all of you thought she was sitting comfortably in Abu. Well, she's not. She's gone to Ahmedabad. And that's to see a woman who's now much younger than her, just 80. And she's gone to see Sarla Didi, who's apparently not well, and she's in Ahmedabad. So I suddenly get these messages and photographs of her going from here to there and whizzing off, and her itinerary would make you tired just reading it, so I won't bother to go into that. So where does she get all this energy from? And she'd say, it's from above and it's available to all of us. True. So, are you ready to go, Daddy? I'm ready. I can go any time at all, she'll say. So she calls herself Ever Ready. So what has she been doing? She's been making sure that each and every one of her actions is one of giving rather than taking. There are several words from the Hindi language that have been around in our English vocabulary for over a century, maybe longer. But there are a few words that have come from India into our vocabulary over the last 30, 40 years. One of them is yoga. You know what the word yoga means? Some of you are enlightened. It means union. And yes, part of it is the physical postures that people know about and associate yoga with. So yoga is just passed into every language without translation. Another word that doesn't seem to require translation is karma. Yeah? And the actual word just simply means action. And in the context that people use it today, it usually implies negative action and negative result. You know, you hear this expression, well, you know, it's their karma. Well, karma is neither negative nor positive. But how come it's being used in a negative sense today? Because that's the trend of the world. It's a world in darkness, and so things seem to be getting more and more chaotic and complex and complicated and challenging, chaotic. So that's why we tend to use the word karma in that way. But in fact, no. If I'm concerned about my final moments, and who knows when that's going to be, today, tomorrow, 10 years, 20 years, well, I've known Daddy 60 years. And and I've seen her nearly go at least 8 times. And I keep thinking, this is her last trip to London, and I'm constantly being confounded. And so she's coming back to London at the end of July. Again, 2 trips to London in 1 year. So her karma is constantly one of giving. Giving of herself, giving of her time, giving of her love, giving of her wisdom, giving of her compassion, giving of her food, giving of her clothes. If she had a way, she'd have 2 sets in the cupboard and she'd have distributed everything to everybody else. People who know her know that she'll keep telling the assistant, get me this, get me this, get me this, get me this. And the person who's with her will say, but Daddy, I already got enough. But no, bring me this too. So maybe we can't be like Daddy 100% and just constantly be giving away everything. But that mantra of being able to be a giver rather than a taker is a very beautiful thing to keep in mind in terms of preparing for my final moments. Why? Because there are karmic accounts we have with people, and I don't know what is the debt that I carry from the past. And so if I'm taking and then giving something in return, it's a business exchange, no credit. the debt might still continue. And in my final moments, if there are debts that I have, there's suffering. And I don't want to live in a state of suffering. I want to live in a state of peace, in a state of awareness, in a state of knowing that I'm going to a better place. I'm going into the experience of what today was described as non-duality, and I would describe as the experience of God's love, of being merged in God's love. And I know that non-duality sounds less threatening, but that's okay. I don't mind. It's the end of the day, and if there are things you carry away that you need to digest, and you need a day, 5 days, a month, it's okay. So I'd like you to think about this, the whole subject of the divine and being lost in that experience of that divine love which comes from the source. And so if I can experience that in meditation today, and if I can choose to be able to have that experience at any time that I wish, or as long as I wish, I know that in my final moments, that's also what I'll experience. If I keep practicing this whole subject of being able to give rather than take, on the physical level, it's easy to keep a calculation. I gave X so-and-so, and I need to get the return of that, and if I don't get the return of that, it's going to be complicated. Okay, well, if I gave and it doesn't come back, to what extent are my thoughts occupied with that rather than a bigger picture? And even if it doesn't come back, can I just simply let go and say, well, they need it more than I do? Is my heart big enough, generous enough to be able to do that? Am I able to forgive? I know that there are people who've written whole books about the subject of preparation for death. And I'm thinking about Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who wrote so much, taught so much, shared so much, and elucidated all the different stages, etc., etc. And I'm trying to keep it very simple and concise and share with you a lot within a short space of time. But at that moment, when I'm ready to leave, am I ready? Or is it that there are things that are still pulling me? My attachments will pull me. And that practice of being the soul detached from the body allows me to experience during my lifetime communication, engagement, karma, but yet with that awareness of soul, connecting with soul, so that there can be pure love, very inclusive love, but no dependency and attachment, because attachment will make me suffer. And so can I deal with my attachments today? Can I deal with my ego today? And yes, there's many, many layers and layers and layers of ego. But on the gross level, can I detach from my skin race and color and religion and family and education and all the things connected with this? And just be in that state of what I've seen many people describe as pure consciousness. And again, pure consciousness to me translates in a very simple way as soul consciousness. And the more I practice this, the more I'm able to deal with my ego, not just during meditation, but through the rest of the day also. Do I have desires that are unfulfilled? So what am I going to do about that? Saying, okay, I'm going to finish this desire, finish this one, this one, this one. And you know what will happen? you'll deal with 3 and 4, and there'll be a dozen more that'll come in their place. Have you ever noticed that? You deal with a few, but then suddenly, where did all this come from? And so the lesson that spirituality teaches is, it's not a question of ticking off the list. I wanted a bike, I wanted a car, I wanted 2 cars, I wanted a better car. It'll go on and on. But the solution is, can I simplify and can I be content with what I have instead of chasing after what I don't have? And in that contentment, can I experience gratitude? Forgiveness, that's something else that people would say you need to sort out before you're ready to go. So instead of waiting till I'm given a deadline by a doctor, you've got 6 months to live, 3 months, 1 month, whatever it may be, but I might never be given a deadline by anyone. Here in this spiritual family that gathers together here every day, we've just had a whole string of departures. We were just counting how many, and we counted 6 within the last little while. We just had one last week. And so it keeps coming that we really don't know the date. And none of these people, some were in their 40s, one was in her 30s, some were in their 40s, and the latest one was just 60. I say just 60. When I was 20, I thought 60 was old. Now I'm nearly 70, so I think 60 is young. So perception changes. But rather than wait for later, if I want freedom, let me forgive now and experience that freedom now rather than wait for later and later. So there are several things that I can do today to help myself prepare for a smooth transition. And I've noticed that in the last little while, we've started using this word transition in day-to-day language. People don't like the word death, so maybe they're using the word transition because of that. But it's actually a very spiritual expression, because there isn't an end, there's continuity. The NDE seems to give us an indication of that. Proof, some would say it's proof, maybe it's an indication, whatever. But that stage where I leave one costume and I move into a different phase, it is a transition. And what happens beyond? Well, that's a subject for another day. We won't go there. But at least I'll have settled my karma. There's nothing pulling me. I'll have let go of the things that I need to let go of. And maybe through my meditation, I would have experienced the peace, the love, the truth, the joy, the ecstasy that people have spoken about after the NDE. But it's now. I can experience this today. But this in itself is a very powerful and beautiful preparation for that period that lies ahead. So when I understand these things, but more than that, when I practice this stage of pure consciousness of who I am as a soul, there's no more fear, because I know that I existed before I took this physical form, and I, the soul, will exist beyond. And of course, the other thing that causes fear is there going to be a settlement of karma somewhere along the line? And I'm scared of that, because somewhere deep within our hearts we know that nothing's for free, that there is an account that has to be settled. And so now in this awareness of the inner being, I can do that settlement today rather than the unknown and fear of what may come later. So the more I know, the more I experiment, the more I practice, the more I experience, fear really dissolves away. No need to have fear. Curiosity is great, but I can even deal with a lot of that curiosity now. Let me stop here. Thank you for your attention. Let's have an experiment with the meditation of Raj Yoga. I'm pretty sure that many of you have some practice that you're already engaged in. But what I'm going to do is speak out my own thoughts in meditation and invite you to follow these ideas. Letting the body relax so that the body is comfortable but also alert. I focus my thoughts on the inner being. The being of light. I am consciousness. I am light. I am peace. And I hold this awareness of peace in my thoughts. And I begin to feel peace within myself. In this awareness of peace, I am connected to my own original state of being. Deep down within myself, my original state of being is peace. When I forgot myself, I lost touch with peace, and I searched outside and didn't find it anywhere. So now, through my inner journey, I come to peace within. And in this awareness of peace, I can feel the presence of the divine. And from the source of love, this pure love, as vast as the ocean, comes towards me. And I'm lost in this ocean of love. And it feels as if I'm merged in this vast, pure, unconditional love. I, the soul, merged in the divine through love. And the power of this love purifies, heals, empowers, and I'm filled with the same pure love as the source. I am an eternal being with my own identity, connecting with the divine, the supreme. Yoga is this connection, this union, this relationship. Connected to myself, connected to the divine. I emerge transformed from this ocean of love and come back to the physical dimension, ready to share all that I've received. Thank you. Whether we practice this for a minute, 3 minutes, 30 minutes, or longer and longer, is whatever is possible. It's up to us. But the important thing is this connection so that we're able to take. Because otherwise, I mentioned giving, but how do I recharge? How do I refill? I need to connect. And so even connecting for a minute is helpful, and the longer I connect, the more ready I am to do the things I need to do. Thank you. Om Shanti.